This is The Blueprint with Andrea Smith. Thank you so very much for tuning in today. I am your host, Andrea Smith, and I have created this podcast so you too can build your wealth through real estate and business ownership. I have several decades of building wealth-generating assets, either real estate holdings or businesses. I am a wife, a mother of 5, and I cannot wait to get started building your wealth with you. And welcome back. Thank you so very much for coming and listening to episode 2. I'm Andrea Smith, and I am so excited about what we talked about today. We really got into mindset and in understanding yourself in order to attract the right people onto your team and the best partner for you. We talked about building the asset and what the asset really means for a business. We even got into the wealth transfer of the individuals that have businesses that should be probably passed on or sold. So let's get into it.
Andrea, it's so great to be here again with you today. We're learning all kinds of important things from you that I honestly didn't know a lot of this world existed. So you've opened you've opened my eyes to kind of a new almost aspect of the industry that I wasn't aware of. A lot of your stuff is kind of invisible to the rest of us that are just out there working day to day. Is that true, would you say?
Yes. Thank you so much for the feedback. It's wonderful that we have found a niche that we can really provide value for the people around us and really impact people's lives.
Yeah, that's incredible. So I would love to hear more of this story that brought you to where you are. So obviously you're a veteran, which is incredible. Thank you for your service and all that veterans do for us. Really important. But I also want to hear about you as a mom and as a wife. Like, how did you get to this place of, owning a business, multiple businesses as an entrepreneur, and just how did you get here? Tell us a little bit about that story.
Yeah, absolutely. So the military was an incredible challenge. It was during a time of war. At the time, I was dual military, which means my spouse at the time, we had to make the decision on if I stay in or get out, and I became a mother and then transitioned into large commercial construction with a really reputable, incredible company that I moved around a lot with my 3 young children and really put a lot of tools in my toolkit throughout that process. We redeveloped Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri with a large team. We moved here to South Dakota to build the Denny Sanford Premier Center. And I was part of growing large, big, impactful projects for communities. And that part of my story really, and doing it as a single mother at the time, really forced me to understand what efficiencies looked like, how I could be beneficial to both and balance a professional and personal life.
Yeah.
Now that my kids are older, they have their own lives, they all drive their own cars, and I had the opportunity to really focus on growing my own skill set, investing in where I found my passion and what I'm good at and where the type of people and teams that I like to work in and with. I've been able to invest in myself and really know who I was, which is, of course, the very first step to being really successful. And I've been blessed with finding an incredible partner and husband, and my husband, Dan, and we were both W-2 employees, and we really very ambitious, wanted to give all of ourselves into what we were doing, and really found that ownership was our next step. And so we built Sodak HVAC. He is owner operator of that, and we built that one together. Now we are launching Advise to Build, which is an owner's rep company where we can really capitalize from both aspects. He came up through accounting and business, and then real residential HVAC. I came up through mechanical engineering, gotten my IT and master's, came through large commercial construction. And so the two of us are really pull and push so we can really get the best solution for our clients. We're now looking towards including a couple, 2 to 3 more partners onto our consultancy over the year. And so we'll be introducing them to the base of people that we're talking to throughout this year. And I'm really excited for what that will mean for our clients.
Yeah.
That's really where we got to today, is that I first had to invest in myself to understand where I was and what I'm good at and accept that about myself. And then found this incredible partner that was everything that I wasn't and supported me when I felt I needed to be picked back up. And I do the same for him. And we're moving on in that direction.
Sounds like a good match. So tell me a little bit when you say I invested in myself, for those of us that maybe, what does that mean? What did you do and what did you learn? Is there anything that you would share?
Yes. So last episode, we talked a lot about mindset and taking extreme ownership of our own lives. There's an extreme ownership book out there by Jock that, of course, Military SEAL. It's a wonderful book. Please read it. But it's really taking full responsibility for our decision in our lives. And where I felt I would not be in the best light of who I was and how I wanted to show up in the world was when I wasn't matching what I was passionate about with where I was showing up in the world or how I was showing up in the world. Maybe I stayed in a place for too long. Maybe I love to learn and grow, but in that position, I was done learning and growing, and there was no opportunity for advancement. That was my responsibility to move on and find the next step for myself. And so investing to understand and accept what I'm good at and what I'm not good at, where I needed to create a team around me or to round me out, and I can do the same for them. That's where investing in yourself to really understand what you're really good at is so important.
How do you do that? So if you're going to, let's say somebody comes to you and says, Andrea, you're so good at this. Like, how do I figure out what I'm good at? What would you tell them?
There are so many personality tests out there.
Okay.
There's several programs about personal development. Some are targeted towards women. Some are targeted towards leaders in the construction industry or any of your industries. But Myers-Briggs, understanding what widget you are, there's so many out there. Really diving in. And then though there's controversy on 360 reviews, they are so valuable. And feedback is a gift. I really look at feedback as a gift, and it really depends on your own personality if you can accept it that way. I appreciate it. But I would also, on the flip side, say that even though you might be a person, I am a person that enjoys feedback because I would like to continually grow and be Toyota myself. Some people it's a gift, and some people don't deserve it. So if they aren't seeking it and they are not responding to the feedback you're giving them, they don't deserve the gift, and you don't need to give it to them.
And sometimes I think it's when you get feedback, sometimes we only listen to the bad feedback. So like that gets so much more weight than all the good feedback. So I'm just curious, how do you, and I'll be curious about you, and I want to hear more about your husband and you and how you balance each other out. What are your gifts that you each bring to the table? So I want to hear more about that. But how do you make sure that you're balancing it in a way where it's like, this is the good feedback, and I'm not giving that bad feedback extra weight?
Yes, I think that's natural behavior because we change only through pain, and hearing things we don't want to hear is painful. So that's where we just naturally gravitate towards that. It's wonderful if we can take that medicine with some sugar. I used to believe and subscribe to the idea of really diving in deeper to make my weaknesses stronger. Yes, I will round out my edges, but sometimes my edges and my edginess is exactly what my clients need. It's exactly what my team needs, and I'm extremely loyal. And so if those edges need to come out, that's my superpower, and accepting that about myself. Also having someone in my corner and on my team that understands that that is a blind spot possibly for me, and they can, in love and care, tell me what I am not seeing. That's part of building a great team around you, that you've really trusted individuals. So now I prescribe more to the thank you for giving me that feedback. I appreciate that terribly, because if I'm not going to be able to see it or fix it, I need to find that person I trust to look out for me in that way. But I am going to focus on my superpowers, and I'm going to make those the best I possibly can and best in class in my industry.
That's really smart. So I would love to hear more about the compliment. So what do you bring to the table? What does your husband bring to the table? And then maybe a little bit more about, as you think about Advise to Build and the opportunities that it has here in the community and maybe even in a wider region. What do you guys love to work on now that you've got these two superpowers and maybe it sounds like even more coming to the table?
Yes, I'm so excited. I can't wait until we can start having conversations together in front and introducing them to the podcast community. My husband and I, primary partnership, he comes from an accounting background, and it's almost like I believe that anything can happen. If no challenge is too big. Where I really shine is when the project is very large, complicated project that needs multiple different funding sources, takes a lot of people and a very tight-knit group of team members and that have their own nodes that can make very big, complicated projects work. And there's never a no. It's just how are we going to get there and what levers do we need to pull or jettison, like just let go of, in order to make the project get up and off the ground. He comes about it from the exact opposite way. So when we opened his primary business, he wanted very slow, calculated growth. He grew way faster than he wanted to, but it was still controlled, and we only brought on the work that we had the humans for. So he wanted it to prove out before he would just go balls to the walls and make it grow as fast as possible. Now, just to remind the audience is I came from really large commercial construction with a lot of contacts, and he came from smaller residential, high volume, low, like smaller valued project, but a lot of them.
Sure.
So we could have exploded that business and completely ran it into the ground if I had paired it the incorrect way.
Sure.
So having his perspective and following his lead, because that is what was needed at the time, is what really helps. And for us, I hope it provides credibility that we have already gambled with our own money and our own lives and our own ability to support our families. We've successfully done it 3 times now. And I hope that provides validity for those who want to do business with us, that we take a multi-tiered approach. And we would love to help others ensure that their business is just as strong. So when we start talking real estate and investments, we are talking about the assets or liabilities of your business, and that your business is extremely strong and can handle it.
Yeah. So it's so smart that you guys have the awareness of each of your strengths and that what you bring to the table. I think about even, different partnerships that I've been part of, or even currently, like, you might think that you're really good at something, and then you find out by trying to do all the things, like, yeah, I guess maybe not so much, right? Like that might have been more of an aspiration, right?
Yes, exactly. I'd like to be better at this.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about the real estate aspect of your work. Tell us a little bit, like high level, for those that maybe are just tuning in or haven't had a lot of interaction with you. What is it that you do on the real estate side?
Yes. So I primarily focus on getting the project to a point where it can actually be funded and built.
Okay.
Thank goodness for opportunities with a local contractor here and the people there that really invested in me to provide me more context of what estimating and pre-construction looks like. I really focus on getting that project put together in a way that it can be built. Now we are bringing more people on staff on the consultancy, and not staff, they'll be partners, equal partners in the consultancy that will look at the business as a whole. But what we've been focusing on as an owner's rep is getting the right team in place. I talked a little bit about it last time about the construction industry and creating real estate assets for any business or investor or group, or even on the individual level. You have to have the right team in your corner. And where I focus is hiring and putting together the pieces and parts. So your team is very strong, and we play against the game like it's a very strategic game that we're playing against the game. There's so many complicating factors in the market that change on a fluctuating basis, like the cost of construction materials or tariffs or political wins or the availability of workforce in the workforce and who else is competing for that workforce on any time with their own projects. That is all the game. If we can get the right team to play against the team or against the game, if the team is working together in that same way, we'll always win. And so for the contractors, I was part of creating a roadmap to get the project to a point where it can be constructed. On the other side, before I did that part, I was getting it constructed. And for several years of my life, I was operating the buildings that were built. So it's the whole gamut of the real estate asset. We've been there and done that.
Okay.
And that's what we focus on.
Yeah. So tell me about, like, maybe are there misconceptions people have about your work where like, oh, you know, she or her company only does this, or maybe people think that you play in a certain space? What would be something you would love to just dispel right here and right now?
Oh, thank you so much for that question. Thank you so much for that question. We are a community-centered organization, and so we started by serving nonprofits. A lot of people who are in my position choose not to represent nonprofits in that way because there isn't a lot of money to be made representing nonprofits, to be completely transparent. But our heart is in creating a community where the community, rising tides lift all boats.
Sure.
We are that through and through. And so we will provide those services that are direly needed for nonprofits. But really, it is our charitable heart that does that. We're really good at large, complicated projects that are like they easily get stalled, or we run into large, complicated problems that we actually solve for our clients. And so, yes, we work with nonprofits and we will continue to do so, but our real bread and butter are in the large, complicated real estate projects.
Can you give me an example of a large project that you worked on where there was a stall that you had to help figure out a way through? I'm sure you've got a lot of them, but maybe there's one specific one that you want to share.
Well, I think I will take that question and just change it just a little bit. I and the team had a wonderful opportunity with Dream Design International. They're an incredible organization led by Hanny Shaffey, and I had the opportunity to work with the zoning and planning department with Jeff Eckhoff here in Sioux Falls.
Okay.
We just opened recently the Sioux Falls with the South Dakota One Stop over at Dolly Farm, and it was done in a phased approach. That took years of planning in order to be able to open it in a phased approach. It ensured that the design team, the engineers, and the planning and zoning were all on the same page as we walked through pre-construction and design to ensure that all of the right fire barriers and all of the zoning and all of the design and construction access and logistics were fully coordinated before we opened or even opened up the ground for the first time.
Yeah.
It's those extremely, and it wasn't just me. I played my role, but the whole team worked diligently in the same direction. And that's one example.
Yeah. It's
and
a good one.
The team was so incredible working together, but that was against a market that was very difficult at the time, but all the players played their role so we could be successful.
Yeah, that's really smart. So as you're describing that, I couldn't help but think what that must be like for you. Not that I want to talk about like women versus men, but you are a woman in a very male-dominated world. So I'm just curious, how do you navigate that? Because you seem to do it pretty effortlessly and you are very well respected. Tell me, how has that been for you as you've navigated your career through this very dude-centric environment?
Yes, like the emails that all say, "Hey guys," and then in the military it was "Dear gentlemen" in a very formal letter. And that was the first time I ever brought up, I'm like, I'm not a gentleman. but I can be, I guess. In the end, it really doesn't
Sure.
necessarily matter. And it comes up so often that people ask me to talk on panels about male-dominated
Oh, sure.
industries, and I feel like it is my responsibility to be in that space and answer those questions. Only so the next generation, people out there will see me and also see a builder, or see me and also, oh, she must be an expert in real estate development. And it's because there's so few of us in history that people don't necessarily associate what I look like to be one of those people.
Sure.
So I just show up like I'm already there. There has been times like I am in learning mode and I need to be in receptive, being coached, being mentored. And there has been times where I've had to hone my skills, where I'm more perfect than the person next to me, only because I'm walking into a room and I haven't met some of the people in the room, so they don't assume that I know those things yet. So then I have to tell or prove that I know
Right.
those things again, because again, they just haven't seen it done yet. And I'm excited that I think some of those things are starting to come down. But I show up.
Yeah.
I show up and I do the work, and I just let the work speak for itself.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I do think there is something important about visibility. And like you said, just having a role model that is a woman, like you said, real estate developer, because that's not always what comes to mind for a lot of people, is a female, or they assume that maybe it was her husband's business that was passed on to her or something like that. So
Yes.
I love that you're owning this space and that you just prove it through your work. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So we're talking a little bit about the blueprint as it as it relates to real estate. So tell me a little bit. I know when we talked a while back, you mentioned that you help businesses if they're trying to determine, should I buy a building, or maybe should I, go from renting to building a space. And I would be curious as a business owner, how do I navigate that? When do I come to you to help me determine, should I rent? Should I buy? Is that something that you help people do? Should I build a space? Like, how do I know when is the right time?
Yes. So I like to call it preventive maintenance for your business. That's one of the things that make us a little different than the transactional real estate brokerage. We are a business consultancy owner's rep company first.
Okay.
And so we will, with full non-disclosure agreements, that's why I don't talk about many of my clients, is that we'll do a full valuation of your business and to ensure that, and a deep dive on your balance sheets, ensuring that you have all of the systems in place. See if there's any systems efficiencies we can garner you so you can maybe spend less and have more flexibility in your cash. If that is where you want us to go, I really want to make sure that when we're working together, you don't find yourself in a debt prison. And that feeds into whether or not you should buy or lease.
Okay.
If you are finding with real estate, the really great ones, and we have several in town, the really, really great developers they are getting wealthy on real estate, and more power to them. I applaud them. They're doing great work. You can see just coming downtown Sioux Falls, there's so much happening, and I'm so proud of them and thankful that they're willing to invest in that way. The majority of business owners aren't in real estate, and real estate then becomes where they hold their wealth and protect their wealth if done in an appropriate way. So it's usually done to, you purchase the real estate in order to hold the wealth that you've created in your business.
Sure.
So most people, even on the individual side, use real estate to hold wealth, protect wealth in a way, than actually getting rich on real estate.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about the contrast between individual real estate ownership and corporate real estate, or is there a different? Like, what is is there a difference? Or how do we think about it differently?
I think it really depends on. I think the mindset shift needs to happen in the personal finances, and you should look at your personal finances like a business. You
Okay.
have your own house operating income. You have a balance sheet. Your house is your liability or your asset. It only becomes an asset if it is another revenue generating stream for you. So it's a liability until you can have it make money for you. I think we all should look about life that way. I think when we started in America, at least the way I read history and the way I've digested it, is we all were entrepreneurs. The majority of us in the Midwest were farmers or in the farming industry. A lot of people came into a profession, like a craft profession, and they learned the profession, but they didn't have a thing called benefits that they relied on. They worked for a trade and then did that trade and had to manage the exchange of money, which is all business, right? There, several generations back, everyone was an entrepreneur.
I've never thought about it that way. I love that thinking. Yeah. So what happened? How did that shift happen? What do you think how do you think most people think about entrepreneurship today?
I think we went through the industrialized revolution, and then, everybody got into factories, and then unions were required. Unions are still required in some professions because the health and welfare of the individual worker is very important. I think because the tasks got bigger and needed more individuals that had to work in a certain way towards a certain common goal, it naturally happened that way. We're now entering into a completely different world. And over the next, I don't know, I think I heard this morning, 5 years, AI is going to change and revolutionize the way all of us work. So we need to automate, and that will include the real estate and construction industry. So we're working adamantly in integrating AI tools and automation into everything we do and testing it ourselves so we can help guide and lead our business clients into automation as well.
I read something this morning that said about half of entry-level jobs they expect to be automated and through AI. So that'll be interesting to see how our current crop of youngsters will navigate professional careers, won't it? If half of those jobs are entry-level jobs are gone. Anyway,
we'll see.
Yeah. So tell me, I would imagine that real estate can be a cash drain. It could be wealth building. How do I know if it's going in the right direction?
Yes. So really, really good accounting is important. We start from a numbers-based perspective. We have a couple of properties ourselves, and, we have a few winners and a loser, and being able to have that experience and guide another owner through that, or an investor, someone who wants to start being in this world. We just have that experience to help guide those people.
So if I'm an organization and I have maybe I have a couple of properties that I own, I rent in a few locations. How do I know, is that something I should be looking at? How often? Should I sell? Should I build another one? Should I buy instead of rent? How do I figure all of that out when I'm busy trying to run my business?
Exactly. You focus on your business, and we will give you some tools. If your business is right-sized in this moment of innovation, and we right-size your business, and now you have a hybrid workforce and you don't need that office building anymore, is it better to lease or is it better to sell it? Depending on it, age, how old the asset is, how is it been maintained? Is there somebody in the market that is in need of that asset class? All of that assessment we help through. We can either go the full dive into your business, or we start with just how are the assets performing.
And I'm assuming you would be looking at long-term and short-term, both, right? When you're looking at those different assets, is downtown going to be a big winner in 10 years, or is this area Southwest? How do you project some of those things?
Yeah. similar to business, we do full SWOT analysis.
Okay.
So we also call it a moat. Like, what are the moats that are protecting you from your competitors? What are those risks?
Yeah.
Let's put a risk analysis in. If you don't have a moat, what are the things that are protecting your asset class? And what are the risks? So zoning is important to keep keep your eye on. The long range plans. Sioux Falls, South Dakota does a really good job putting together a development plan on where they would like the city to go and leading the city to. Some of the other communities or cities, if they are just starting on that plan or not sure what that plan is, it's a little bit more risky of a market to play in. That really understanding what the plans are for where your real estate is held is part of our assessment.
Okay.
What are the rents going? What is the full outlay of that asset class in that market, and how many others are coming online for that time being? Because if you're in a very saturated market and then the asset class that you are comfortable in is already too prosperous, or there's too many in that market, this might not be the best market for you. That's why we're looking at really partnering with other developers or real estate holding companies or M&A companies to understand, how do we really advise which markets are the best markets to play in for the asset class that your business plays in.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, it's interesting to think of. I always wonder sometimes where I'm like, how do they know to buy that location for that? But they probably worked with somebody like you to help them plan out where
Absolutely.
they should expand and grow, and knows all the zoning, what's happening over the next 10 years and where things are going. So most of us as business owners don't have time to invest and figuring all of that out. So that's where I could see someone like you would be pretty helpful, helping us with that. So Andrea, there is some recent news that has said this is the biggest wealth transfer in history. We are in the middle of the biggest wealth transfer in history as the baby boomers retire, pass along their businesses to those of us who might be interested in business ownership. Tell me your perspective on that. What is happening from your lens? What are you seeing?
And what I love this question, and maybe we can paste in some of the answer from before, but
yeah.
I'm really seeing that where our niche is going to be is that one of the partners that we're bringing on, he has evaluated businesses for sale or for ensuring that they can actually maintain a 504 loan, or they evaluate it for the banks to ensure that it can take on a real estate liability and still be successful, because the banks want to get paid as well. I keep telling all of the
banks want to get paid.
Yes.
That's so weird. I've never heard that before.
Yes. So understanding that we want to create wealth generation for the people that we're serving, I really want to be able to create a pathway for those people who are just cut from this cloth, that are extremely ambitious. They want to take extreme ownership of their life. They are willing to take responsibility for the livelihoods of themselves and others that are on their in their business. And that I want those people who have businesses to sell to talk to us.
Yeah.
Let us know if we can help with the real estate license. We can also buy and sell businesses, and all of the partners that I've been talking about coming on as partner in the consultancy, I keep throwing out there that I want to be buying and selling businesses in 3 to 5 years. And some of them are saying, well, why don't we do it now? And others are saying that, well, you're really great at creating assets. Let's just build these real estate assets. And I said, that's why we're creating the team. We'll do the right thing for the client. But I really want the individual, which we'll talk about in the podcast. We really want to create healthy, wealthy individuals that are community-centered and community-minded, as well as healthy and wealthy organizations and businesses that are community and community-minded. So it really creates this ecosystem where we really are supporting each other and lifting all boats.
Would you love to see us go back to more of the more entrepreneurs in the community? Do you feel like we need to go back more in the mindset to maybe how we started, like as you mentioned earlier?
Yeah, I think that my prediction is that the businesses that create systems for the ownership-minded individuals in their companies to have the flexibility to continually generate revenue and assets and profit for their businesses are the ones that will win.
Mm-hmm.
And if the individual as an employee, W-2 employee, we could call them W-2s, then if they fully take extreme ownership of their own lives and their own ability to earn and create a life for themselves, it will only feed into this everyone's winning and this great momentum and innovation mindset. So yes, my short answer is yes.
I love that. I have one last curveball before we close up this episode, because as you were talking, I can't help but think about the business owners that I know that say they're constantly taking calls from private equity saying, I want to buy your business. Is that something that you're in favor of or that you would warn against, or is it an it depends answer?
Completely depends. What did you build the asset for? So we've been talking a lot about the real estate assets that we build as an owner's rep. As a business and the business consultancy that we're talking about, if you built the asset to sell it for the highest dollar that you can get, great. Sell it to private equity. Let them make it into what fits their needs, and you have no ownership anymore. If you have built a business that is centered around your heart and soul and created it into something that is really, really special and dear to your heart, when you sell it, it is now that person's or that group of people's. And so if you are going to struggle letting go of seeing it completely change under different ownership,
Because it will. Yeah.
maybe private equity isn't the right solution. Now, everyone, probably even in family-owned businesses, as you're letting go of ownership, don't be the basket that's hiding the candles under a bushel. Like, just your job as owners, as you're backing out, is to ensure that your next generation has the ability and flexibility and the training to make something big and great out of the asset that you've created. That's what a business is. Just like we build giant buildings or homes or small structures out of nothing. We get to grow it into something. Businesses are the same. They are also tangible assets that can be bought and sold, but they're built out of a creation. And there's always a blueprint to that as well.
Yeah. So what if you don't know, maybe you start a business, sometimes it happens on accident. Like my dad said I should buy this business. We just heard this the other day and we were like, we don't know. They bought it. They ended up having it for 17 years and now they're trying to figure out what to do with it. Right. So if you don't know, when is the time to decide, what do I want to do with this business long term? Should I be talking with you about?
Give us a call.
Yeah.
We will get a valuation for the business based on what market rates currently are and the assets and liabilities that the business consists of. We'll give you more information to make informed decisions. So my clients will always hear that the best solution as the decision maker, the owners, the investor, is that we will give you all of the information that we have, the best information that we have in the moment, so you can make an informed decision for your asset.
Absolutely.
Whether it's your business or it's your real estate.
This is really good advice. And I really appreciate anything else you want to make sure that we know about the prosperity blueprint as it relates to real estate and valuations.
At this time, just subscribe and tell all of your friends to subscribe to this podcast. I hope over time we'll continue to create content based on health, wealth, and community-centered actions.
All right. Thank you so much, Andrea. And if you found something valuable, make sure to subscribe, share it with your friends. Lots of really good stuff in here as you think about building prosperity. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening today to this episode of The Blueprint with Andrea Smith. If you found anything in this episode valuable or something that you would like to share with a friend, or you would just like to support my work in creating more content for your awareness in these industries, please like, share, or subscribe. I'd love to connect with you on either through our website at advisetobuild.com or checking any of the links below. Again, thank you so much for tuning in.